Hey, your viewers and viewresses, my name is General Red Strategist, and welcome back to Sir You're Being Hunted. It's time for another podcast-style episode. Now, I know, technically, in the previous episode, Phil, incidentally, is joining me via Skype here. I'll just do a little bit of explanation first. I know, technically, in the previous episode, I said I might be starting a challenge this episode, but actually, Phil decided he wanted to join me, so we thought, let's do a podcast-style episode, because you want to have a good chat, don't you, Phil, over there?
I'm always up for a chat, mate. I like having a chin wag.
Yes, you do indeed.
It's the perfect platform for a chin wag, isn't it?
It is. So how are you doing over there then, Phil? Life treating you
all
well?
right. Yes, I'm doing all right. Still plugging away, still plugging through life, and still doing everything okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well. Yeah, it's been a relaxing day. We've got a nice big recording session going on. We've been doing some various games, things like that. So it should be good. Yeah. So originally, Sir actually wasn't down on our list, but like I say, you decided you wanted to have a good sort of Sir podcast style chat.
Bloody hell! In that sentence alone, there was about 5 you knows.
Well, you know me. You know me, Phil.
But yes, the reason I brought Sir into this is because I've got a topic of discussion. This is always a perfect platform. The amount of topics that we've discussed through the years of Sir You're Being Hunted has ranged from everything. It's so good.
It is.
There's been Christmas episodes. There's been Minecraft. There's been radio where we went and talked about the radio. There's been things like the mega chat we had, the Q&A. They're just random topics, the ancient civilizations. We've just done so many.
Here we are.
It's just such great, and it's a way of keeping Sir You're Being Hunted going. And I know you viewers like our little podcast styles where we have a chat about various different things. So my topic for this Sir You're Being Hunted, a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's with regards to job applications and interviews.
Okay.
Basically, the processes and how horrific it is. I don't know about your experiences as well, but it's just the fact especially when you don't have a job, or where you've just come out of university and you're having to sit at home, going onto those websites like Monster, and just no, it's absolutely awful.
It is, isn't it?
Just having to get your CV going, getting it built up, putting all the stuff in, getting it built up, and then actually putting it on these job sites and just flinging it about, and then going searching what you want to do, obviously what you want to do, and then waiting for the agencies, because they're usually through agencies, to ring you and say, right, well, we just want to have a bit of a chat, and then trying to get the interview. I just remember doing it. It's just it's diabolical.
Yeah.
It really is awful. But in some cases, it's got to be done.
You have to. Yeah.
Kind of flinging out those applications. What's been your sort of experience with those types of things, the job applications and then interview processes and things like that?
So obviously, in my sort of career field, it's quite competitive, and you'll send out masses of applications. It's like for every 100 applications or whatever, you might only get a handful of interviews that you're invited to, and it can be it can be really disheartening. But it's one of those things, you just have to plug away at it and keep going, and eventually something will turn up. But like I say, it takes. You just got to have that kind of mental fortitude, and you just got to keep picking yourself up and dusting yourself off every time you get another kind of rejection, or in some cases when they don't even reply to you.
Oh God, that's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I know in a forest episode we had a little chat about the assessment centres and things like that.
Indeed.
Well, apart from that, those are usually to like big companies. But what we mostly do, you have to treat it like when you're doing it. Sometimes it's happening, when you just come out of university. Treat it like a 9 to 5. So. Because obviously you'll be at home, probably still with your parents, and you have to get up, get onto your computer. Well, especially for me, because my sort of one was a technical role, web development, and get onto these sites, snazz up your CV, make sure your CV is all looking good, and then get onto these sites like Monster, CV Jobs, all these various different job sites, and get your CV on there. And then it's just a process of sitting and waiting, having your mobile phone near you, and waiting and getting those calls, and then beep beep beep, call comes through. And what I would do, get on the phone, they'll be like, we've just seen your CV for this job, and I'm quite interested. We just want to ask a few questions, and you have to go through what they say. And they said, okay, we'll get this sent off to the actual employer.
Yeah.
So the agency, you come off the phone with the agency, and then they go off to give your CV to the interviewer, because they get paid on commission.
Yes.
So their whole thing is they want to get you to the interview stage.
Indeed, they do.
Actually, I don't think they get paid until you actually get the job accepted. So they're trying to do their utmost to get you past the interview stage and actually get you the job offer. Because as soon as you get the job offer, they get paid.
Indeed.
So they're going to do everything they can.
I must say, because when you were kind of hunting for jobs, you used these kind of agencies. I don't think I ever utilised things like recruitment firms or anything like that to try and get myself noticed. I just sort of explored around on kind of websites for institutions looking for jobs and then applied for them.
Yeah, well, you're sort of different style from me. I did have those where it wasn't just agencies, but going for actual, because I wanted to do something in IT, so I'd go to maybe schools or universities and try out for the IT department. But for them, compared to agencies, you can just shove your CV and go. With those, you'd have to go onto a website and fill out questions. What makes you think you're good for this role? With answer on the questionnaires. And things like, those are all annoying because you have to sit back and start thinking about how you're going to plan an answer.
Because academic jobs, they usually, when you apply for a job at a university at that kind of level, there's about 1 million stages and things you have to go through with their application process on, in terms of not just uploading your CV, but also going through, like you say, the basic questions, but then going through the sort of specialised questions of, why do you want to apply to this institution? What can you bring? What's your kind of research area of expertise? Things like this, or area of interest.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for me, when I'm applying for schools or universities, they will ask things like, what's your experience with Microsoft Office? How can you do this? Because obviously I go for a technical role. The job I'm in now is a technical role. So I have all the experience, the technical experience. And since I've got that promotion as team leader, if I ever go for something in the future, then you've got that additional, technical knowledge.
Indeed.
So there's a lot of doing that. That was the majority, but the big giants, like if I'd apply for a university or something, then they would have the actual specialised questions. Whereas with it was just a little web development, maybe for a small company, you just put your CV and the agency would ring you. And they sit there.
Sorry, go on. I was about to go off something related, but no, you keep going.
No, it's just it's just that the waiting for the agency to get back to you. That was the for me in that one, or waiting for the the ones for the universities. If you went for the IT department of the university, sometimes months before they would respond. And then sometimes, like you said, you don't get a response at all, which is even annoying. It'd be nice to get something like that. Unfortunately, you didn't quite make it.
Sometimes it'd be good, like you say, just to get that message and maybe any kind of pointers that they could give. Was there anything in particular that they could recommend that, when you're at another interview, maybe there was something that you could have done better, maybe there was an answer you gave that they just didn't feel really convinced by, anything like that. So then you can, work on sort of making your interview technique even better, things like that, But like I say, when they don't reply, that is just kind of disheartening, because not only have you kind of failed there, but you don't know why you failed. We
need a reason, give us something at least.
But of course, in some cases, with the amount of friggin' people who apply, who you might be competing against for the job these days, it might just come down to the fact that it wasn't necessarily that you did anything wrong. It might just be that there was somebody who was
better than you,
marginally more qualified, and so unfortunately, you didn't lose out through any fault of your own. It's just there was someone slightly better. But that's unfortunate. There's not much you can do about it.
We won't get what the good thing is that when you finally when you do it, but it was so annoying because it's just like you're sitting there doing all these entries, you're not getting any money in because you're currently unemployed. It's those who are. I don't want to be disheartening to people who might be about to finish university and everything, but I'm afraid you're going to have to go through this process.
Yes.
You're going to have to start. What would be ideal is to start getting job applications if you're in your third and final, maybe not your third, it may be your fourth year or whatever, and you're coming up to the end of the year. Start the job applications now.
Definitely. It's never too early to actually start doing that, I'd say. And the thing is, especially in nowadays, when here in the UK tuition fees at universities are so bloody high, if you really want to get kind of value for money out of that and set yourself up in a good position in terms of employment prospects, you need to sort of take advantage of all the services, careers related services that your university offers, because every university will offer
Career guidance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know,
how to write a CV, how to write a good CV,
Indeed.
how to write a good personal statement, you know, how to do a good cover letter. They'll have all those little workshops and scenarios.
Workshops for things like interview techniques. You can do mock interviews, things like that. CV checking, opportunities perhaps in your first or second years to do things like work placements or stuff like that. So you can gain a bit of experience, so you can add something to your CV. So
that's what I did.
Yeah,
when I went to Germany. Because remember, I went for 4 months in Germany. I did a placement in the IT department.
Yeah.
So it was a sort of double goodness, you could say, because I was doing work placement IT and I was doing German as well.
Yeah.
So I combined both my majors there. Yeah.
Put yourself in a good position. Yeah. So that's where really what you kind of ought to do if you're a student at university. You need to sort of take full advantage of what's on offer to you. Because the thing is, if you just go to your lectures and your seminars, I would say you're not really getting full value for money out of your university experience. You need to get involved with all the extracurricular stuff that is available to you. And then,
so you can get better, and you'll know how to do an application. I know, because you'll be sitting, once you finish university, you'll be sitting at home, probably your parents, pulling your hair out, going, I need to get a job. I need to get a job. And just throwing applications out left, right and centre, just waiting for someone to go, yes, we'd like to have you for an interview, please.
Indeed. But I was thinking, you know, in a sort of related kind of vein to what we're discussing at the moment, you know, in terms of advice for things like interviews, there are kind of tips and things that you can bear in mind to try and strengthen your interview technique, stuff like that. So, like, for example, a technique which I always tried to kind of abide by when I was when I was at an interview, and which I would give to anyone as a piece of advice even, is when you're planning out your answers to sort of questions that might get asked, always use that kind of STAR formula. So like situation, task, action, result. So like planning your answer according to that structure. So if, for example, let's say the interviewer might ask you the question, tell me about a situation where you solved a problem. You know, this sort of formula lends itself, to that kind of structure. So think of like a situation that you're in where you were faced with some kind of professional issue that you had to resolve. Think about maybe the task that you then had to undertake, the action that you performed, and the result of that. So was it kind of a good result? Was there anything that you could learn from the result that occurred, or that you did learn rather? So
that's very good advice.
Structuring your answer like that.
Absolutely. Well, that's the next stage, isn't it? The bit where the agency or whoever rings you and say, we're happy with the application, come for an interview. And at that moment, you have a bit of a feeling of elation. Oh, it's rising, but don't get your hopes up too high yet.
Indeed.
But you've got to the next stage, and that's the bit where you obviously know the day. You get make sure you have a nice presentable suit.
Yes.
Because you need to look nice and presentable. And then make sure you're on time, or give yourself probably. I would say a big piece of advice is to probably be there 10 minutes early.
Oh yeah, definitely be there a few minutes early, so that that way you've got sort of time just to sit down, compose yourself.
Go over your notes as well. I remember there's been many a time where I've been in the suit, sitting in the like the reception area, or just sitting on the sofa, going, there's like 5 million caterpillars have just burst into butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
And then they say, Philip Wood, and like,
time for your interview.
Come in. Yes, and then that's the bit where you sit in and you shake their hand and sit down and go, here we go. Indeed. And then they start asking all the generic questions, you know, things people are, tell me a bit about yourself. You know, that's a generic question. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Yeah, that's one of the ones that people don't like at all. Because you're going to big up your strengths. But one thing is, with the weakness, with regard, is to try and turn it into a strength.
You've got, so the way you kind of do that is always by not just saying what the weakness is, but then showing that you can reflect on it and think about, okay, how do you overcome that weakness? What can you do? Yeah, stuff like that. Indeed. Just out of interest, the interviews you've been to in your time before, were they kind of interviews conducted with a single interviewer, or have you ever had like panel interviews where you've had more than one interviewer?
I've had, well, not really a panel, but I have had occasions where I've had two interviewers who've interviewed me, and they have, but most of the time it's been like one, and it's just having a general discussion on various different things. And you try to what I try to do is gauge sort of reactions on their faces.
Yes.
But they don't seem to do that a lot. Yeah, you don't get an awful lot of reaction off their face, which you've got to do. Because you don't. They obviously don't want to give away that you've either got it or you haven't got it.
Yeah, they want to sort of stay poke-faced. Yeah. In my sort of field, it's usual in academia when you're doing interviews that there will be panel interviews rather than just one or two people. So the smallest number of people I've ever had in a panel interview is 2. But in my current position, the interview I actually went to, there was 5 people on the panel.
5? Wow.
Yeah. So there was there was the head of department. There was somebody I think who was involved in the sort of personnel and sort of professional development.
HR. Yeah. Usually, when you get more than one person, you'd either get the head of department or the manager plus an HR, maybe.
Indeed. Yeah. But panel interviews can be sort of nerve-wracking because you feel like you're under a microscope with quite a few people looking at you at once. But at the end of the day, with any interview, you just got to go in there with that mindset of this is my opportunity to really sell myself. So don't see it necessarily as, oh my God, I'm going to get grilled. See it as your opportunity to really big yourself up and really just talk about yourself for however long.
Well, as well as that, obviously the interviewers are seeing if they want you for the job.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're seeing if you want the job. Yeah, you're seeing them. So that's why they ask questions at the end. Is there anything you want to ask us?
That's actually an important thing. In all the careers advice I was ever given when I was on that kind of situation where I was trying to look for a job, at the end of an interview, when they ask you, do you have any questions, always ask something, just because it gives that impression that you're invested, that you're interested in learning more about the organisation or about the working culture.
That's what I always ask. Ask that question. They do love this question I ask. What's the sort of work culture like?
Yeah,
they like that question.
Indeed.
I had one interviewer who, when I asked that question, they went, Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, our work culture is this, and that.
Yeah. So always do that. Even if maybe over the course of the interview they've technically answered all the questions you might have, always just ask something. Even if it's just something like, just to clarify, can you just repeat for me such and such a thing? Again, it just gives that impression that you're really invested and that you're actually
really interested in the job. Because if they go, have you got any questions? No, not really. They might have a think, maybe it's not that interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Just thinking as well of interview technique. I always remember just before I got my current position, I actually had a chat once with a friend of my dad, one of his friends from back in his day, who actually gave me an interesting piece of advice as well about sort of interview questions. So I mentioned obviously the kind of STAR formula a moment ago. For other questions though, where the STAR formula answer might not necessarily be the kind of appropriate formula, there is another kind of way you can sort of answer questions. So this particularly works with questions such as what can you bring to the organisation, stuff like that.
Those are big questions.
So the kind of formula he recommended was this kind of rule of 3 approach. So if someone asks you, what can you bring to the company or to the institution, you sort of divide your answer into 3 parts. So first of all, what can you bring as an individual? Then what can you bring as a member of a team? And then what can you bring to the organisation as a whole? So it's just an interesting way to kind of...
I can bring free chocolate cake.
Free chocolate
How about
cake.
That?
You've got the job, Phil. There you go. Yes, indeed. So all kinds of little interview advice and things like that you can pick up on. But another piece of advice.
Also, make sure your hand is not clammy.
Oh yeah,
when you shake the hand.
Definitely.
When you shake the hand, interviewer.
And give them a fairly nice, firm handshake as well.
Yeah,
not a limp one.
I don't think we've ever really got over interview processes. We have. I know we've done assessment centres. We won't talk about assessment centres. If you want to know about our experiences with assessment centres, go and have a look at the Forest video. I think it's called Hotels and Assessment Centres.
That's the one. Yeah.
Where we had a chat about those works. But those are usually for bigger companies. But yeah, it's an interesting process. Sometimes there is in between the application and a normal face-to-face interview. Some companies might do telephone interviews.
Yes, indeed.
So they might start asking questions on there. Yeah. And like for me, obviously different to you, because I was mostly applying for technical roles. They would ask technical questions. For various different things, like what does this mean? What does that mean? How do you define an IP address?
Indeed. Just thinking as well, another technique, you know, if you're trying to sort of perfect your interview style. I mean, I've not really ever done this myself, but it's a piece of advice which, for some people, kind of comes in very useful. Is to do a mock interview with somebody, but have them film it, and then you can sort of watch it back. And you might be kind of surprised at things that you see yourself doing or saying, and you might think, okay, that might be something there that maybe needs changing, or maybe
and you might not like it because no one likes looking at themselves or hearing their own voice.
But it can be very useful, like I say, for identifying any sort of shortcomings which might not be immediately obvious to you.
I thought you were about to say, I thought instead of identifying, it might be very useful for identity theft.
Identity theft.
Identity theft of yourself.
Yes, indeed.
No, we don't condone that. No, absolutely not. No identity theft.
Yeah, because everyone sort of has, you know, little mannerisms and idiosyncrasies, body language elements that they don't realise they're necessarily doing when they're talking.
I wonder, maybe we can find someone. Oh yes, who is it? Who keeps going, you know.
Oh, I wonder who that could be, eh? Yes, but yeah, sometimes it's about picking up on, you know. There you go. Right there. Good Lord, Phil.
Oh, there we go. The irony.
Lord.
Oh, my goodness me. That was amazing.
Indeed,
but no doubt I do things. I know that I do a lot of... your viewers have probably picked up. I do a lot of and there's moments where I do quite a lot of that, and I pick that up on myself. Yeah.
So, picking up on your idiosyncrasies and mannerisms, so just getting people to tell you what they are, or filming yourself doing a sort of mock interview and watching it back, it can really help you, especially if there's anything you're doing which is distracting either to yourself or to the interviewer. Very, very important.
As well, if you are at university as well and you really want some help, ask around, ask people, please can you help me? Where can I get some interview experience, or where can I go to do a mock interview?
Indeed.
And no doubt be counsellors happy, like, we can organise some time for you to do this, that and the other.
Absolutely.
Or if you don't go to university and you've decided to just go from college to a job, because I think now back when we were in school, you could sort of drop out after you'd done school and you didn't have to go to college, but I think now you legally have to go to college.
I think I
don't think you can drop out after GCSEs anymore.
I think what you have to do now in the UK is, when you leave school, you have to have a defined path that you're going to take.
Right.
So you have to either be going on to further education, i.e. college, or you have to signal that I think you maybe actually have to have a path into a job, something like that. So it's one or the other. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but
so in that way, so you might have to, if you're not going to the college route, you might have to ask your school instead for interview advice and doing mock interviews, and no doubt someone will be happy to help out.
Indeed.
And give you that added experience to get through the interview process, because the interview process is a very difficult and nerve-wracking. Absolutely, it's nerve-wracking. Every time I've been to, I mean, if you're not nervous when you go to interview, there must be something wrong, because it's absolutely normal to be nervous. I remember, I said there as well. Wow,
it must be bleeding across to you now.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
But when I was sitting in the reception rooms, or sitting in my car before I go in, I would just open the internet, the website of the company, and just be reading it through, going, oh right, okay, so they started in 2002.
Yes. That's a very
that's
tip.
a big thing. What do you know about us?
Always research a little bit into maybe the history of the company or the institution, the organisation, whatever. Also, if they have if they have something like a strategy or like a vision document for where they want to be in so much time, think about what you can potentially bring to that, or where you can fit in with that.
That fits in with their strategy. Oh my God, they'll love that.
Yes,
they
indeed. Again,
and one very important thing for the interview, one absolutely monumentally important, remember to bring clean underpants. Yes, don't forget.
Yes,
that's quite important.
Natural self.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. But once you've done the interview, you're like, yep, thank you. We'll give you the and so you walk out the door and feel, sigh of relief over you as you exit the building. But then it's more nerve-wracking as you wait for a response, either through the agency. I've had amazing moments when that's happened, mostly because the it's done through the agency. They've rang me up and they said, well, because they want you to keep going. When I've done it for the agency, they've gone, so how do you think that went? I thought it did well. I thought, okay, well, we'll get back to them and if we'll see what happens and I'll call you back. And then you just, obviously at that point, you're still having to carry on through job applications, going through, and then you get the call. And I've had this for the latest job I'm in. They go, well, they want to give you the job. And there's that moment. Where you hear it and just elation fills the air. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, fantastic. And they're like, yeah, that's great. And then you go, can you start in a week or so? And like, yeah, happy. And then if you at that point, if they say, sometimes they want you to start, in a couple of days, but sometimes they say, we want you to start in a couple of weeks' time. So at that point, you've got a job and you don't have to do any more playing. You can basically just sit on your arse and play video games.
Relax.
Just relax until the 2 weeks.
Yeah, when I got the call to tell me that I'd got my current job, that was actually quite a nice moment as well, because when I got the call, I was actually on a
tell us what
break.
Was happening. What
yeah.
you doing?
I was actually on a little break with my old folks down on the south coast of England, and so the thing was, it had actually timed quite perfectly because we set off down. I had my interview, and then we went on to, this place we were staying for this break. And a few days in, the call came through, and it was just basically the cherry on the cake. It was fantastic. Because I thought, hang on a minute, if they're actually trying to call me by phone rather than just sending me an email, that could be a sign of, they actually want to talk to you. They don't just want to, tell you, oh no, you haven't got it. Because if they're going to reject you, they'll probably just do it in a very impersonal way by email or whatever. But no, if they actually want to call you and tell you, that can be a good sign. Yeah.
At the time they were calling you, were you out and about on a walk, or were you just in a hotel, or what was it?
You're just in the place we were staying. And
then you rushed out your door, like, Mum, Dad,
got it.
I've got it.
Yes, indeed.
No,
it was good. It was a good.
It's a bit funny, but because I thought you'd be searching around here, but that's another thing. Do not just search for jobs in your area, in your local area. You've got to spread your net out. Yeah, you've got to throw it out wide. Indeed. Throw it out wide. If I find a job that's absolutely looks perfect, but it's quite a way, you might have to consider relocating. Yeah.
That's the thing, my field in academia, jobs in your local area will not be, there will barely be any of them, so you have to really pretty much look at moving away and relocating. I mean, like in some instances, people who go into academia, they might end up relocating to an entirely different country.
Yeah, you've got that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I was lucky that the position I hold, I was lucky that came up when it did, because it was just the right kind of position for me. It was.
It was, but you had to start searching for flats and stuff, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, indeed. But, you can worry about that once you've actually got the job.
Yeah, that's the main thing, that feeling of elation, those different stages. Oh, yes, of course, the telephone interview. Sometimes they have two face-to-face interviews. Like you go for one face-to-face interview, and then you'd go and do a second one, because they liked you to pass the third, and you go and do the second, and then that's when you might get the job after that. Some, obviously, as we said earlier, do assessment centres. You might do an interview and then an assessment centre, but it's all different kinds of ways, different kinds of styles to how you can get a job. The interview is basically the process to see how well they feel you might fit.
Yeah,
there are some jobs out there, although this is very rare, where you might get it as soon as you've done the application. There's no interview. But I think in that case, your application and your CV will have to be unbelievably stellar.
Yes, unbelievably.
And then they feel in that case that an interview is not necessary. You're absolutely perfect. They don't need to see you. But an interview is also a way to actually get them to see you, so they know what you look like. Obviously, no discrimination. They don't want to. Yeah. It's all about equal rights for employees, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't discriminate against people. I know there was horrible things in the past. People who were getting discriminated against for the jobs because they're in wheelchairs or things like that. Yeah, it's just not on.
Indeed.
But nowadays, everyone's people who are mentally challenged might not have got various different jobs.
Yeah.
But it is a scary process, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about that.
And always remember, ladies and gents, when you step into that interview room, don't forget to smile. That's important to me. Do not forget to put on a nice, sociable, approachable demeanour. Because the thing is, like, even though obviously when the interview is conducted, the interviewer doesn't want to just make an opinion of you based just on your immediate appearance and your immediate mannerisms or whatever. The fact is that we as human beings often do make sort of subconscious judgments based on people's appearance as soon as we see them. And what you really want to do is you want to try and create a rapport the moment you walk in that door.
First impressions count.
Yeah, go in there with, look, you got to look approachable. So don't forget to smile, like I say. Just be
nice and happy. Don't look like a grunty bastard. Yeah, I heard a little a thing, or I don't know if it's an article somewhere that said the interviewer's already made up their mind about you within the first 10 seconds.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So first impressions count.
Yeah, that good impression. I know.
So if you go in there looking grumpy and arms crossed, and it's going to be like, okay.
Well, not necessarily even grumpy, but if you just go in there with a very kind of blank expression that just doesn't tell the interviewer anything, then that too can sort of it doesn't create the right impression.
Have that smile, have that happiness. Don't be too over the top. Don't go in, shake the hand, go, hello.
Yes.
That's a bit, Yeah. Hello, it's so fantastic to see you. Yeah, you don't need to be like that.
Yeah, you don't need to be over the top about it, but a little bit of warmth can go a long way. Just to, I mean, I know it's the old advice of that we try not to judge the book by its cover, but when you're an interviewer and you might have to conduct about 10 interviews in one day, and you don't, you don't really have time to sort of get to know someone in huge amounts of depth in the space of just 15 minutes or however long. You got to, do what you can to kind of create that good impression, that warm feeling that just makes the interviewer think, oh yeah, that guy, I kind of liked the look of him. He was an interesting kind of fellow, had some interesting answers. There was a certain rapport in the air that he came in, things like that. So it's just about
everyone wants to know what the interviewer's saying after the interview. So here's a little tip for you. Bring with you a tiny little microphone, and then what you do is, as soon as you leave, just slam it under the desk, pull it there, and then transmit it. Yeah, bug in the room. Transmit it through Wi-Fi to you, and then just be like, and then turn it on. So yeah, what did you think to him? Yeah, I thought he was great. Oh yes, I've got this one.
There you go.
But I know there's always a process with jobs as well where once you actually start the job, there's probably a probationary period.
Oh yeah.
Where they see how you are for 6 months, and then they can still get rid of you.
Indeed.
So you've got to make sure you're good in those 6 months.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Do everything you can to leave a good impression and make them feel like you're an indispensable part of that organisation. Yeah.
I mean, how long have I been in my job now? 3 years, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have 3 years.
I'll be starting my 3rd year in just a few days. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not long ago had my 3rd year anniversary.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So 3 years now, and here's to another 300 years. Yes.
Not 300. You don't want 300 years.
No.
You want to be right up until you retire.
Indeed.
That's what you want.
Yes.
Or win the lottery and then you can leave early, can't you?
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. Okay. Well, been recording for a good amount of time now. I think we'll start wrapping up here. Unless you've got anything else you want to mention very quickly.
No, I think we've had a fantastic discussion about applications process and interview process.
Yeah.
And what to do. So just a final bit of advice. So just don't be too. Hopefully, what we said hasn't frightened you too much. No. For those of you who are just finishing school or just finishing university and you're on that role, it's a scary moment sitting at home and flinging out applications or actually going out and flinging them out there. Just know you will get something. Just keep on plugging away at it. Keep going, and you will get something. Just keep those applications in. And you have got those who go through agencies. They'll be there to help you. Well, they have to because they get paid on you getting the job.
Indeed.
So they'll definitely be trying to assist you. But if you're not going through an agency and you're doing it by yourself, remember you've got lots of advice from people. The internet's got full of advice of how to go through interview processes, what to do with applications, how to jazz up your CV. And you've got your parents, if you've got parents, relatives, any friends and family, people who've gone through the process, ask them.
Yeah, indeed. Well, there you go, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed that and found it semi-informative at the very least. So, thank you then, Phil, for joining me for today, for this episode.
Absolutely.
And Facebook and Twitter links down below as usual, along with a link to my propagandist channel. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. But in the meantime, we're going to sign off now. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
There you go. See, apart from leg day, it's also work on arms day. Well, it looks like we're going up there, but yeah, we can't go up there. That's probably where we have to go. Unless there's something knocking around here. Well, I'll just let it go. Oh, it's the stage area, yes. We definitely want to go down here. But I still feel like some of these might come to life. See, look, there's ones that have bases, but there's a couple over there that don't have bases. Which makes me think they're pretending. Should we try this out? Experiment with them. Ah, see? Fucking knew it. Oh, God. Good lord. Oh, good lord. They reacted very fast. Yeah.